very much.
See what you did there?
I did not.
Oh, and the bells are out, so class is already.
Oh, good. You mean I'm not taking their time?
Oh, it's right here.
Okay, now, let me, this is an odd, this is odd for me, but I'm glad you're close together because it keeps you warmer. Yesterday, when I was reading all of the exciting news from Temple High up and back, and it talked about the weather and that the building was not comfortable, I thought it was just too cold. Y'all were too hot. Well, who is to know that? I don't know that. Okay, now, let me talk to you about Macbeth. There's a very famous question that's asked, you know, when you're applying for scholarships. That's coming up, and you will all apply for scholarships. You will leave no dollar left on the table. Promise me. Because people from the community and everywhere give money because they actually believe in higher education. And they especially want to give that money to local students. And then there are colleges and universities that will give you money. But especially with the Temple Education Foundation and with others, there are people who will give you money. Now, one of the questions that's always asked, and some of you are already in college, I don't know if this was asked of you, but if not, then things have changed. What is your favorite book that you have ever read? Let me tell you one book that's never mentioned, not in my 150 years. Macbeth. And yet it is probably one of the most, if not the most, common thread book, or it's a play, yeah, I know that. But it's a book too. But it's a piece of literature. It's probably the most common one. Now, since you've read this, or would any of you say that this is the most favorite book? It's not, Mr. Talton doesn't care, and I don't care. I've taught it more than he has. All right, so it's not about teachers. But tell me, how many of you would say this is your favorite book or piece of literature you've ever read? Raise your hand. I rest my case. Now, then why in the world do you read it? Why are you reading it? Because we want to make you miserable? Why? Just come up. Why do people who claim to be educators and to be halfway intelligent, halfway I'll go with, why do we require you to read this? If probably every time I start to teach Macbeth, I'll be honest with you, I go, okay, here we go. Eat my Wheaties. Positive attitude. Why are we requiring you to read Macbeth? Anybody have an idea? Okay. Do you not ever ask yourself, why am I reading this?
Yes.
Okay.
Every night.
All right, every night. Okay. Then let's role play. Okay, let's role play. I'll be the student saying, why am I reading this? And I want you to be the teacher. I want you to be an adult. Anyway, why are you reading this?
Because I said so.
Yeah. Then that means that the teacher needs to be fired. He or she's on a power trip and wants to inflict harm upon you. Because I said so. Why are you reading this? Why do educators who actually, a few of us, I'm not saying I am, but let's pretend, we're pretty healthy mentally. Why would we, if we don't want to hurt you and we don't want to damage you or inflict power for power's sake upon you, because I said so, why do you read this? Why do we have you read this?
Maybe to like see what other people were reading at like different time period, like what was going on or something.
History. Absolutely. This is medieval Scotland. This is medieval Scotland in the 1100s. He said, you know what? There are a lot of things in this world, but I'm not sure that my life depends upon knowing what was happening in the 1100s in Scotland. Well, the feudal system, the Thanes being the knights. Okay, yeah, I could live without that. I've read King Arthur. Come on, that's enough. All right. Now, but then of course, the history of why Shakespeare wrote this in the first place. Do you remember? I told you this one time, but I know
To
you
please
did.
the new king.
That's right. Because we had the Catholic king, James I of Scotland, and he wanted to shut down all the theaters. Queen Elizabeth had died, and he wanted to shut down. He was a Catholic, and he wanted to shut down all the theaters. And so Shakespeare said, "I got to do something in a hurry." So he wrote this, and because Fleance, the son of Banquo, who lived, was the ancestor. And do you remember when Macbeth? Sometimes I don't want to remember, but we're going to do it anyway for a minute. When he goes to visit Macbeth, when Macbeth goes to visit the witches the second time, and Macbeth sees this line of kings, and Fleance is at the back, and of course, so that gives because of the vanity in all of us, it gives King. All right, why else do you read this? Is there anything that has to do with 21st century, someone who's in their late teens, young adult? Anything about this?
Like motifs?
All right, motifs. Oh, I love that word. Motifs. Okay, let's talk. Let's talk about one motif. Did you all read Catch-22 last year?
Yeah.
It was assigned anyway, right?
Yes.
And it's one of my favorite pieces of literature because every holiday there are a lot of former students who come back, and when you ask them what was your favorite book, more often than not, it's Catch-22. I don't know why. But I'm going to guess in a theme. Let's go back to Yossarian is anti-establishment, right? And at the end of the book, that walk through the eternal city, he loses all confidence in the establishment because he said you have it all wrong. How many good families are bad families? How many good people are bad people? How many happy endings are unhappy endings? How many people in power have sold their rights for petty cash? He says, oh my, so he has lost and reviewed. Remember what this is? It's the existential bishop, and it's that bottoming out right here. Nothing makes sense anymore. And he's just given up until that last chapter when he runs away from Makeley's horde. The night witches, it misses him just by inches. Jump, 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 the leap of faith, but we're not going to go there. Well, where in this play do we see this nothingness? Nothing matters. You see it when Macbeth hears of Lady Macbeth's death. And I think you had to memorize this. Did you have to memorize something from this play? Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this penny page from day to day for the last syllable of recorded time. What's the meaning of life? All our yesterdays have paved the way to dusty death. What's the meaning of life? Life is just a walking shadow, a poor player who struts and frets this hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. Tale told by an idiot, signifying nothing. That's pretty dark. But that's where Yossarian was in the walk through the eternal city. So I think if you were to ask people 18 years old in this country, which I follow these trends pretty heavily, because I'm still very much interested in what the 17 and 18-year-old thinks and feels. You have some 18-year-olds who are in charge of, or feel like they're in charge of their life. This is what they're going to do. And a lot of times, if not most times, it's based upon serving fellow man, faith even. Faith plays a big part in a lot of people's life. On the other hand, you have there's not very much in the middle. You have this is, my life has meaning, this is what I stand for. On the other hand, and I hope we don't have any of these in this class, but you certainly have Prince here. The other hand, you have people, it's all a joke. And if you ask substance abuse, people who are hooked on substance abuse, their first response is, after they say, I can't kick it, addiction, they use the word addiction, which they are addicted. But their excuse for using substances is life has no meaning. What's the purpose? What's the sense of anything? All our yesterdays have lighted away to dusty death. Out, brief candle. Who cares? So, that's one of the themes I think, that's one motif. Another motif is in here is the male-female relationship. Been reading the newspapers lately, or reading, or on your Chromebook or anyplace else. It's the male-female relationship. But isn't it interesting? Who is the sexual predator? And of course, they're married. It's hard to say predator. But who is the sexual predator in this play? Is it Macbeth? Lady Macbeth. When she comes, want me to play it out for you?
No. I was thinking like at the beginning it's more Lady Macbeth, but
Play it out,
to the
play it
end
out.
it's
Okay. Well, no. Unsex me here. Make me no, I've seen it played at the CAC my first year here. I think I've told you this already, so we won't overdo it. But where this lady comes on, when she knows that Macbeth is coming back and she wants to make him kill Duncan, and she says, she pulls open the front of her dress. I've lived in Temple maybe 30 minutes, and I think it's the center of the Bible Belt, and I go see this lady rip her costume open. But anyway, she says, she's talking to the moon. Unsex me here, fill me from top to crown to toe, full of direst cruelty. In other words, make me like a man. Stereotypes, yes. But anyway, she's the one who comes up to Macbeth, and he says, he's been nice to me. He just made me think of Cawdor. I don't think I want to do it. She said, from this time forward, I count thy love. And she's just hanging. He's going, well, okay. And then she says, art thou a man? And I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to act that out for you. Put your mind in the gutter for 10 seconds. Are you a man? Well, you said you do. You're a man. Are you a man now? So she uses her feminine wiles to get him. Now, there's another play that you read. My goodness, an IB selection. It's called Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Who's the sexual predator in that play? Her name is Martha. Okay. And she comes on to Nick, remember, right in front of her husband. Didn't y'all read this last year?
Yes.
Okay. And we're going to review this again before the IB test. Okay. What other reasons? That's a modern theme. That's not something that happened just in the 11th century or 12th century in Scotland. What else?
Greed.
What? Greed? Is that what you said?
Didn't you want to have a baby?
Huh?
Wait, are we still talking about Virginia Woolf?
No. Now we're back to Macbeth.
Oh,
We'll get to Virginia Woolf in a couple of months, won't we? Or a month or two, Mr. Charlton. Yeah. Okay. Agreed. I'm going to put greed because Macbeth doesn't want money, does he? Greed we usually associate with money. You could use that, but what does he want? He wants to be king. He's ambitious. So what are you going to do to be ambitious? And he certainly loses any sense of what I would say is fair. Okay. Now, another reason you read this book, I'm going to make this up for you. It's a classic. It is. I'm not sure why, but I'll tell you why I think it's the most read of Shakespeare's plays. Romeo and Juliet is second. You read that in the 9th grade, is that right? I'm going to use the word like. Did you like that play at all? Like West Side Story better, huh? Didn't even like that either. Okay, in textbooks, Macbeth is the shortest play that Shakespeare wrote. And so it's easy to put it in a textbook, and you don't have textbooks anymore, I don't think. We don't have, do we, Mr. Thompson? We have textbooks?
Only like ceremonially.
So.
To keep the bookshelves down.
Is it, yeah, I understand that. We're not gonna tell the taxpayers that though. But anyway, because you know how much money is spent on textbooks? You know how much money one of those thick books costs?
No.
Almost $100. When you look at how much is in there in the binding, it's not paperback. Another one of that, but the classics, okay. There are, I'm going to editorialize for just a minute. Y'all aware of the new school that's opening in Belton, whose motto is STEAM? It's called the Nolan Creek Charter School. And they're starting out K through 7. Might be K through 8, I don't know. What's the trend in education today? Is it more public education or away from public education? Away, away, away. You better believe it. Some of them are magnet schools, but some of, and what in the, when they were talking about the, you know what STEM means, just to wake you up, what's S? Science, technology, engineering, math. And but you know what this school is going to do? This is K through 8. Where is English literature? I want to go there. I don't want to read Macbeth, okay? It's all incorporated in this A called the arts. And if I were going to ask you to list everything that's in the arts, what would you list?
Theater, every type
Music,
of music. And
music,
visual.
theater, art, visual, art. Anything else?
Language.
Language, that's interesting. A second language. That may be just assumed, who knows? But when did you learn to read? When does it say anything in here about learning to read? Isn't that what you think you do in elementary school? Because 90% of what's read now and what people want their children to read is informational texts. You know what that is? Nonfiction. Science, technology, engineering, and math. And you learn to read by reading about those things. This is where education is going. And so that's why I retired, because I wouldn't have a job. I can't wait to see where IB and AP are going to take this, because the teaching of literature is down it's just down so much because it's difficult. Now, one last thing I'm going to say about the classics, and you can make up your mind about that. This is the first year, and I don't want you to take this personally because it has nothing to do with you. This is the first year in the history of Temple High School that there have been no National Merit Scholars. It's not because we have students who are less intelligent. Did you know that, by the way? Not about the intelligence. Did you know that this is the first year we haven't had a National Merit Scholar? And when you go back, I'm on an informal, with an informal group studying why, and it has nothing to do with your intelligence. If you choose to take it personally, then if I were you, I'd go see a psychiatrist and get a self-esteem program. Because that's not the case. But when you take, Macbeth is hard, you don't like it. The line, I don't understand what's going on there. So, but the more and more that schools still require interacting with the text in difficult literature, the more your verbal goes up. When did you all, if you're in math, when did you take algebra?
Seventh
One or
grade.
two? Eighth grade?
Algebra 1,
Eighth grade.
8th grade, okay. So when you take algebra in the 8th grade, that means when you get to the very top of your math sequence, you top out. You understand that you don't have enough years and you can't add, we already have 8 periods, you can add 10, I guess. But before you were there, algebra was taught in the 7th grade for the advanced students, and geometry was taught, did you all know this? In the 8th grade. Why was it stopped? Okay, never mind then. Now we're gonna get back to Macbeth. Okay, I want you to, right now, let's see, let me get this out. What did I do? Oh, it's over here. Right now, I want you to talk to me. Just because it's always been taught doesn't mean that you need to teach it. But I want you to talk just a minute about, this is a Renaissance play. So we have Macbeth, and last time I was here, Banquo, Macduff, and Duncan. Now, this is a Renaissance play, and we're interested in the Renaissance man, what are the qualities of the Renaissance man? If you'll remember, when I came to TOK last year, one of the things I did with you was the Greek pantheon, because the Renaissance is the rebirth of the Greek, and you had all of the different all the different gods representing different things. This was the hot side. This is the action part, and this was the cerebral side. I'm going to use the big word here. Cerebral side, the quiet side. This is Apollo, etc. This is Dionysius and Poseidon, etc. All right. Which one of these, let's talk about these men. Macbeth and Banquo. I'm going to start with, let's talk about the word, the warrior. We see a lot about them in war. Which one of these people do you want on the front line? Which one of these people is going to be the most effective warrior? Who, and I use this analogy all the time in football, who to block are you going to send in third and long to take out the defensive line? Who is going to be there?
Macbeth.
Macbeth. And brave Macbeth. In the first scene we hear of Macbeth and Banquo taking out, they just went and just took out the invaders. MacDonald and even the traitors and the invaders. And it's important how Macbeth killed the first person, or the person. Why? He went to that traitor, and you can kill him with one thrust. But Macbeth, that's why the text is so important. But Macbeth isn't satisfied with that one thrust, is he? It says he sliced him from nave to chaps. I may have that opposite. In other words, he took that, he went, just sliced him in two. So, if you're in forensics, how many of you are in forensics? Okay. When you're examining a murder and you see someone killed with one knife, then you see somebody killed with 10 stab wounds all over. Yeah, you need to go to the nurse. You need to go to the nurse, darling? Now go ahead and go. So it's the passion there. Okay, so he is a good warrior. He's a good warrior. Now, but when it comes to the genius, Macbeth, after he has become king, we're going to go now to insight. after he becomes king, Banquo is the one who says, "Thou hast it all now," as the weird sisters promised. It's the very beginning of Act 3. But I do fear thou hast played most foully for it. Banquo has no proof whatsoever, but he says, I think you killed Duncan. It's just it's a soliloquy. He's talking to us in the audience. But then Macbeth is jealous of Banquo because he says, under him and him alone, under Banquo and Banquo alone, is my genius rebuked. Means there's somebody that's greater than I am. That's Banquo. All right, now let's go to Macduff. What kind of warrior is he? He's been in the fight too, but we don't know what he was like in that one. But he comes to see King Duncan on the right. Duncan is killed, and he's the one who discovers the body. Oh, horror, horror, horror! But he's not an unquestioning patriot. He's loyal to the king until he becomes to question that patriotism. Because there are 2 times, right after he discovers the body of Duncan, then they've named Macbeth as the new king, and they're going to Scone to crown him. And this is an important quote. Macduff, are you going to see him crowned? No, I'm going to Fife. That's his home. I'm going home. So from the very beginning, that's like asking somebody of the Republican Party, are you going to the inauguration? Certainly not. Now, you have to put it in context. So from the very beginning, he's saying, I don't think this is right, and I'm not going to act on it. And you could say, you're not patriotic, Macduff. Why don't you go honor your new king? Okay. And then, when Macbeth has that banquet, and of course he's had Banquo killed, and Banquo is killed. He send a message to Macduff and say, are you coming tonight? He says, no, I'm not coming. I'm not coming to the king's banquet. That's almost like going AWOL or leaving the country, because he takes this step and he is the only one in the play who says, I don't trust him. This is not the direction for our country. So he leaves the country and goes to plot with Malcolm, son of Duncan, who's in England. Now, boy, is that a lesson for today. What do you do when you question, and this is for any person, that doesn't have, it's not timely with Trump, I'm not trying to say anything there. But I'm saying, what do you do as a patriot when you are devastated by the direction of your country? And you see, remember the old man talking to Lennox, talking about how people are starving, they have no food, the king doesn't pay any attention to him, he's so focused just on himself, the egomaniac. What do you do? How do you show your patriotism? I think this Banquo is still part of the establishment, but he says, oh, I have my doubts about this. But he doesn't quite know what to do. Macduff says, not going to cooperate. And so, on the other hand, let's look, I think it has a lot to say about today. I was the generation with the Vietnam War where some of my best friends gave up their citizenship to Canada. Didn't believe in the war. So you could call them expatriates, etc. One of my favorite phrases that I heard from a wonderful man, said, don't burn the flag and don't unquestioningly wave the flag, but if necessary, clean the flag. In other words, don't just get out there and wave the flag, not even thinking about the patriotism. I'm not sure that you agree with any of this. I'm just telling you the phrase that, and don't burn it because you're angry, because you're throwing out everything, but take the responsibility and clean the flag. And I think that when Macduff goes to England, that perhaps is what he's doing. I don't know. Now let's talk about the family. Macduff has a price to pay, does he not? Because his wife, and here are the quotes of the wife, he's gone. And the wife says, where's Daddy? And she said, he loves us not. He just left us here and he's off someplace. Well, he's going to England to save the country. His wife doesn't get that. And then she says, he loves us not. And then later on, when Macbeth, okay, I'm sorry. Do you need to leave? Okay. Later on, and then Macbeth comes into the castle and kills her. So the wife, the family, don't ever think, this is where the guilt comes in. I'm standing up for what I think is right and I'm going to England. Yeah, but other people are going to have to pay the price for it. And so the wife and children are killed. And when Macduff hears about this while he's in England, and he gets Ross, I think, comes and tells him, gives him the news, and he falls apart. And he says, all my pretty ones, did you say all my pretty ones? Oh, Helgite. And he just sobs. And Malcolm says, all right, the way we're going to have to dispute it like a man. We're going to go after Macbeth. Don't forget this line ever. Macduff says, I will, but I must also first feel it as a man. And that's why he's a man of action, but also he's a man of passion. And he thinks about what to do, but he knows that he's responsible. He didn't draw the knife, but if it were not for him, his family would still be alive. So, he has children and he feels about it. We have 3 people who have children. Banquo dies, but his last breath is flee, Leon's flee. He's looking after the next generation. There's something very, very unselfish there, and it's just instinctive. So we have Banquo and Fleance taking care of him, Macduff grieving his part in the guilt of his family's death. And then finally, we have Duncan. Now, Duncan, after he has called Macbeth to his castle, and he says, I'm going to honor you, Thane of Cawdor, because I appreciate what you did to save our country. But what does he do first? He says, but, by the way, I'm naming my son Malcolm as my successor. So before he does anything else, he names his son Malcolm. And that's when Macbeth says, uh-oh, that's a stepping stone on which I must stumble or leap. So he's taking care of his family, and he wants, as far as he is going. Okay, now, I want you right now, if you have something to write on, fine. If you don't, do it in your head. The biggest image that you're going to see I know I repeat myself a lot, but it's been a while and you can't. When you are asked to look at a brand new piece of literature, like on the test or anything, and you're asked to look at rhetorical devices, always look for dichotomy. Dichotomy is when you divide it in two. Now, the easiest ones to do, and Macbeth just feeds it into your hands, the easiest ones are day and night, the seasons. I'm in the twilight of my years. You're in the dawn of your years. Okay, you understand that? You understand that? Okay. I may be at the midnight of my years, but let's settle for twilight right now. The other one, the time of day, dark night, female, male characteristics. From other literature that you've read, what are other motifs or dichotomies that you have seen? All right. Let's look at the most common one here, of course, is night and day. We're going to go with dark. I'm going to go around the room. Don't even think about the play, just in your own life. When I mention dark, what's something that's the connotation for you? What do you think of? Yeah, start right here.
Sad.
Sad. Ah, that's his connotation. Night is sad. Yes, sir. Keep going around the table.
Depression.
Depression.
Afraid.
What?
Fear.
Afraid. Fear. God, is a child afraid of the dark? Yeah.
The end.
The end. Oh, we're so positive. That's why you come to school. I love it. But all of this is good.
Can you say an abyss?
What?
Can I say an abyss?
An abyss. Oh yes, the dark cavern. Yeah.
Sorry?
Sorrow.
The unknown.
Unknown. Empty. What? The night is a beginning, especially at 12:01, right? Yes.
Isolated.
What?
Isolated.
Isolated. That's our honey. No, honey, that's fine. Fear. We're devil afraid, yeah. The devil, absolutely. The midnight hags associated with the devil here.
Hollow?
Hollow. Lost. The end. All right. Boy, on the positive or negative scale, where is night or dark?
Pretty low. That's for Kaya.
Way over on the negative, except for the 12:01. Because there's a beginning. That means your glass is always half full. All right. The dark. Think how many popular songs are, and country and western songs, more than any, when you look at how dark is used as a metaphor. Y'all probably don't even know somebody named Janis Joplin or Chris Christopherson or, hey, we can talk about that. The song that is the most famous of their collaboration, Help Me Make It Through the Night. Have you ever heard that song?
Yes.
And you might think it's about sex. I'm not saying sex isn't involved, but that's not really what it's about. It's when everything else, when you have no relationships, and here is this person asking this other person, look, just come help me make it through the night. It's not saying sleep with me, have sex with me, and it may not even be a union. Just help me make it through the night. I don't want to be alone. And so I kept hearing the loneliness, and yet Macbeth uses the word night and dark. I don't want to exaggerate, but I think it's probably about 40 or 50 times in the play. And we have the mist and the darkness. And you said the devil? Okay, he associates the witches and midnight hags is it the devil? Can the devil speak true, etc.? Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to ask you to do, let me see if there's anything that God, man, this is the most important one, man. Okay, this is a pyramid. How many of you are in psychology or have taken psychology? Is it required in IB now?
No.
I don't know. All right, let's look at the pyramid of the consciousness, the subconscious, and the unconscious. Okay. What we know with our five senses and beyond, close to that, look, as far as our brain goes and our thinking, look at the little amount of our brain that's taken up with the conscious. And then we have the subconscious. And then we have the unconscious. Now, Shakespeare was 300 years before Sigmund Freud. I've told you that. But somehow, this is why you read Macbeth. Because somehow he understood. He didn't even know these terms. The roles that the unconscious and the subconscious can play in our lives. And more than anything else in the subconscious, we have what comes out in the subconscious? Guilt. Guilt, guilt, guilt. And in our conscious mind, when something is unpleasant, and we all have that, there are certain things in my life, if I thought about it all the time, I couldn't function. But we have this ability to repress and tamp it down. And if we repress it, where does it go? It goes into our subconscious. But if we get too much in our subconscious, if we repress too much, what is it that Macbeth has repressed, by the way? It's called murder. He's murdered the king, he's murdered the two grooms, he's murdered Banquo, and he's murdered Macduff's wife and children. I'd say he has a little, and he has nightmares at night. Oh my goodness, really? Because when we tamp down so much that we don't want to face in ourselves, it goes into our subconscious, and then we have the symptoms of insomnia. We become substance abusers. We do anything to take away the pain. And then the unconscious, of course, is a whole new ballgame. So Macbeth certainly opens the door for us to understand this. Who else in this play fits this category? We talked about it last time I was here. That was a year ago. Who else is not able to repress everything?
Lady Macbeth.
Lady Macbeth. Out. Read the Cannon. It's not Read the Cannon, out, spot, damn spot. Who would have thought the man to have had so much blood? When she has just said to Macbeth, a little blood clears, a little water clears us up this deep. We can just wash our hands. And she compulsively was washing her hands all the way through. Okay. Now, when you get to read Hamlet, and I say get to read, and I don't apologize for it, one iota. Some of these very same things of family, who is the most patriotic, relationships, man-woman relationships, a whole different ballgame. And I hope that you enjoy that. In the meantime, talk to me just a minute about Macbeth, about something that, is there anything that you said you didn't like it particularly? Miss Evans, I didn't really say that. I said I hated it. All right, well, anyway. If you didn't like it, I hope you will remember some of the major themes. And it probably, by the time you're out of college, for all I know, this will be taken away from the high school curriculum. I'm very anxious to see how long IB is going to require literature. Because right now, doesn't IB have the option of going with, informative text rather than literature?
Yes, ma'am, that is a class that is offered. Yes, ma'am.
That's what I'm saying. Just hold on. I'm highly against it, but I'm sure the world cares. But anyway, so you all take care. Have a good semester. I'll see you later in the semester.